Oh, it has been so long since we've had a video, and you are so excited to watch one on this man, Andrew Jackson. Someday I'm actually gonna sing an entire video. It's gonna be awesome. All of you are gonna be so excited. All right, Andrew Jackson. Look at that head of hair. Great hair on that guy. Needs to get his eyebrows threaded, but you know. We'll live with that. All right, Andrew Jackson, 7th President of the United States. Interesting fellow, and he's going to bring into the country what's known as the Jacksonian era. It's going to be the period that's leading up to the Civil War. So we really are down to our last couple kind of big sections right now for the year. We get this, Civil War, and then Reconstruction coming in after that. So we only have about 3 big tests left. I know you're crying a lot right now, but you'll survive. I promise. Alright, Andrew Jackson, what's happening? Bam! Alright, early life. This is an image of a fantastic story from Andrew Jackson's childhood. His father, according to legend, was being taken away by British soldiers. His family, he grew up in South Carolina to a rather poor family, which I'm not sure this image is particularly showing a poor family, but nonetheless, he stepped forward and confronted the British officer during the Revolution, and the officer slashed down with his sword and cut his arm. The story perhaps might be a little legend, but kind of creates this myth about this man, Andrew Jackson. And he becomes really famous as the common man's president. All these other presidents before him had been born into wealth. And Andrew Jackson really is the opposite of that. He is a rough and tumble man, gets in fights, and he gains prominence as a soldier. He fights in the Revolution, but he gets famous, as we've mentioned, in the Battle of New Orleans in the War of 1812. Interestingly enough, the treaty to end the war had already been signed before the Battle of New Orleans, but news spread slowly, so the battle happened anyways. So now that he has a great deal of fame in the United States, he used that fame to run for president. And he runs against a man named John Quincy Adams, who is the 6th president of the United States. The first time he runs against him, he loses. So 1824, he runs against John Quincy Adams and loses. But he runs against Quincy Adams again in 1828, and he wins. And his platform, his campaigns, it's trying to appeal to the common person. And as president, a lot happens in Jackson's presidency, and we will look at it a bit more tomorrow. But one of the big things is something called the spoils system. So when Jackson comes into office, he has now great power. He's the president of the United States. And with that power, he rewards people that had helped him get elected with jobs. Not necessarily that these people were the most qualified for those jobs, but he rewards them nonetheless. And for that, he gets a lot of criticism. This is a political cartoon from that time, and we're going to look more into this one and some others tomorrow. But a lot of people are highly critical of Jackson for this practice. It certainly happens in every land of politics, but this is probably on the biggest scale that the country had seen before. So as president, though, after we get past the scandals, it really brings in this era that is known as Jacksonian Democracy. And this era really is kind of the idea that power is going to the people, and that the majority is going to rule. So it's not going to be these wealthy elite that are ruling the country. It's going to be the people of the country. And that's what he firmly believes in. However, that doesn't mean the people can just do whatever they want, which we kind of see in the next big event. And the next big event really centers around the tariffs. Now, we've mentioned tariffs before. They're taxes on imports coming into the country. And for the most part, they're protecting manufacturers. If you are creating goods, as we've mentioned, we may be making hats or other items, it protects domestic American companies. Now, a lot of these companies that are creating products and goods, they are located in the north. The south isn't really producing a whole lot. And Southerners are looking at these tariffs and they're saying, now we have to pay more. And they're just increasing the prices for us, and we're not seeing the benefits that the northern companies and northern people are. So, in response to this anger over tariffs, southern states, especially South Carolina, they fight against the tariffs. And one of the main individuals that is vocal against the tariffs is this man, John C. Calhoun. One of the more frightening individuals you will ever see a photograph of. This is a photograph. We're starting to get to the time where photographs exist. So we will begin to move away from paintings and look at some actual photographs, which is cool. So, John C. Calhoun, he's leading these states. Interesting enough, he doesn't always look like this. He looks like this man on the left, which makes you reconsider why you would ever go into politics. So John C. Calhoun, while he looks perhaps like a zombie, he's saying that since states have rights, they have the right to reject or nullify. To reject or nullify a federal law it considers unconstitutional. So these southern states are saying it goes against the Constitution to impose these tariffs on us, and we're going to say that they're unconstitutional. Now, only the Supreme Court, in reality, can say this, but they are arguing that they have this power as state rights. And they threaten to secede. They threaten to leave their union. So, a crisis which starts over tariffs turns into a crisis over secession. And secession is a word that we will continue to hear in the coming weeks. So secession is when you're trying to leave the country. Andrew Jackson, in hearing of these threats, people are very critical of saying, oh, look, there's disunion and this treason is going on. Whereas they're saying, look, it's a king now. Andrew Jackson is preventing us from exercising our rights. Andrew Jackson, in fact, he said this quote. This is a real quote. "I will hang the first man of them I can get my hands on from the first tree I can find." And that's in reference to the first person that decides to leave the country, to secede from the Union. He was furious, absolutely furious. And in response to a very angry Andrew Jackson, South Carolina backs down and they kind of end the crisis. But there's now a lot of tensions between the North and the South. Northerners who are supporting kind of these, especially taxes and things, and Southerners who think their rights as states are being ignored, that the federal government is taking too much power. And that's not to say Andrew Jackson doesn't also think the same thing. Remember, he's not one of these elites. He's one of the people. And one of the big things that he hates, interestingly enough, is the National Bank. It's the most powerful bank in the country, and it's issuing money, it's creating funds, and Jackson didn't trust it one bit. He thought it had too much power. And people are saying, well, maybe you want more power by destroying the bank. And he said, no, I want to just destroy the National Bank. Which is interesting, as now you can see the $20 bill has, yes, the man who hated the National Bank, Andrew Jackson, on it. So the irony continues. Interestingly enough, as we know, the National Bank is no longer around. It was successfully defeated. And Andrew Jackson's probably smiling as he sits on that bill. Tomorrow we're going to look at some political cartoons. So, we'll get to that then. I will see you on Friday.